I reviewed the standard Drevo Gramr not all that long ago and really liked it. It's an incredibly cheap, but still relatively well built and good feeling keyboard, and for the price, it's really hard to beat. So, when Drevo asked if I wanted to review the newer version, the V2Te, well, I thought I would see if the slightly more expensive version is actually worth spending your money on, or if you should just go and buy the older one. So, let's find out and see if it is. Of course, first, if you haven't already, consider subscribing for more videos like this one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Let me give you the highlights. This is an 84 key, 75% mechanical keyboard that uses USB-C to connect, also has relatively dim RGB lighting, and uses TTC switches. You can get it in a variety of switch types, from black, blue, brown, and red, although I've gone with browns as they are still my preferred, well, switch type of the original Cherry MX set. You also get a pretty legible font on the keyboard, which can be rare, especially on these cheaper ones. The keycaps feel pretty good as well. And I would mention that you even have some subscripts printing for the Mac options like Option and Command, which is again kind of rare to see, especially on cheaper keyboards. As for the layouts, it's a US layout, which as a Brit mildly offends my muscle memory. What that means is that you have a relatively short enter key, your hash key is shift and 3 instead of over by the enter key, you have the ampersat or @ symbol on shift 2 instead of again over by the enter key, and backslash is above enter instead of down by shift and Z. Again, you get used to that pretty quickly. It's not the end of the world, but it would kind of be nice if there was a UK or ISO layout available here in the UK. There are also a few quirks to it being a 75% keyboard. You do still get a full-size set of arrow keys, which is really nice, and a good selection of the sort of extra function keys like delete, home, end, page up, page down. You also get print screen and pause. The only ones that you're missing from that set are insert and scroll lock, although I'm not too offended by those missing. I'm not really one for using smaller keyboards. I prefer having a number pad available to me, so this won't be going on my desk full time. But if I had to use a smaller one, or if I wanted to take a keyboard with me while traveling, I could see myself using this really easily. I think this is the sort of keyboard with this layout that I could get used to. I could still do programming on it. I could still use it for gaming, typing, writing these scripts up and stuff. And so this is a lot closer than I thought I would get to actually liking and potentially using a smaller keyboard. One thing that does seem to be missing from this compared to the V1 Gramr is the built-in number pad sort of inboard on the keyboard. That was quite a nice feature. I'm not entirely sure how often I would use it if I had that, but the fact that you can press FN and then have a number pad key pressed is quite nice, whereas at least the subscript printing that was on the first generation isn't here on this one, and it's not an advertised feature like it was on that first board. When it comes to those TT switches and the typing feel, I'm no connoisseur of mechanical switches. I have an original set of Cherry MX browns that I absolutely love. I love the feel of, and I've used a reasonable selection, but like I said, I'm no connoisseur, and so your mileage will definitely vary. But from my personal experience with it, I can't say that I've had any real issues. It feels pretty good to type on, although it is a little on the loud, clacky side. Have a quick listen. But if you can get over the noise, it does feel good to type on. I personally like the tactile bump quite a lot, and it felt good in the hand. In terms of comfort level, that was also pretty good. They do include little magnetic feet that you can stick to the bottom if you want to lift it up instead of the usual sort of flip outs. It's a bit of a weird design considering that the magnetic feet, if you don't, keep them on the keyboard or in the box, you may lose them. But I guess, at least for me anyway, I think I set my feet up on my keyboard and left it alone for the last 5 years since I've been using it. And so I can kind of understand That's not really a problem. The keyboard doesn't move around whether on the feet or not, and the feet haven't slipped off in any of my testing, so I'm fairly happy to say it's a good experience to use in terms of comfort, whether you like it flat or slightly raised. As for gaming on it, that felt good too. There isn't really all that much that a keyboard manufacturer can do to ruin the gaming experience, and so because the switches felt good for me, I do like a tactile bump, especially while gaming, and you know, there's no real concerns with it in terms of its gaming appeal. It felt pretty good. I felt happy with it. It felt relatively responsive. It's got 1000 Hz polling rate, which is always good. And like I said, I had a pretty good time with it, and it's hard to complain when it comes to a gaming keyboard. There are a couple of extra bells and whistles on the Gramr V2, like its RGB lighting and its USB hub. Starting with the latter, the USB hub is just a USB 2 hub. Unfortunately, it's nothing overly fancy, but right next to the USB-C port where you can attach your USB-C cable is two USB Type-A ports. That does mean that if you want to plug in your keyboard, your mouse, and your USB headset all through one cable, that's perfectly possible, although it would have been nice to see a USB 3 hub here with obviously using the USB-C cable. That should be possible, although of course that would increase costs, so maybe a fancier Plus model or something instead, but either way, it's still nice to see that available. And then there's the lighting. Now, if I turn off all of the studio lights, you're able to see the lighting reasonably well, but if I turn them on, it's kind of difficult to make out. It's still fine, especially if you're gaming, in the dark. It's bright enough that you will be able to see the keys and still type or game away without much problems. And you do have a number of different modes that you can use by pressing FN and the arrow keys and that sort of stuff to change it around. But overall, it's fine enough, although I'm not someone who really uses RGB on keyboards anyway. I do technically have an RGB keyboard, but it's been set to white for the last 5 years, so I think that tells you all you need to know about my thoughts on that. So is the Gramr V2 worth the extra 10 or 15 pounds more than the Gramr V1, which at least at the time of filming is currently still available? Honestly, I think I would still rather buy the Gramr V1. The Otemu Blue or whatever Otemu switch you want to use on the V1 are, in my experience with the two, pretty similar. And so for me as a usage experience, I wouldn't really mind between the two, but having a USB hub on this isn't as much of a benefit as having the number pad functionality on the V1, and the fact that the V1 is still cheaper, again, is a nice benefit. Although, saying that, these are still ridiculously cheap keyboards compared to the name brand options, so even if you did end up with the V2, you're still going to have a very good time with it and be well into it for a lot less money than buying a Corsair or a Razer or Logitech keyboard instead. With that said, those are my thoughts, and I would love to hear yours in the comments down below. What do you think about the Gramr V2? Is this one you would pick up yourself? Also, if you are more of a key switch connoisseur than me, feel free to let me know what you think of the TTC switches that this uses compared to the Otemu ones that the V1 uses, if you've used them both. Otherwise, if you want to check out the Gramr V2, I'm going to leave a link to it in the description down below. That'll be an Amazon affiliate link that will take you to your local Amazon store where you can see pricing when and where you watch this, because it can and does vary. Otherwise, there is a whole load of other links in the description you can check out, from merch hoodies or t-shirts like this one, or a load of other cool designs. There's Patreon for access to our Money Men Discord chat and sponsor-free videos, and of course, you support me directly too. And there's a load of other affiliate links for places like Overclock UK if you're buying from there. There's my PC that's listed in the description, which are Amazon affiliate links, and there are plenty of other options like VPNs and just a load of stuff, so feel free to check it out. Otherwise, I'm going to leave some more videos on the end cards for you to take a look at, maybe the Gramr V1 review so you can see how they stack up. And otherwise, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.